The following show is a Pod Avenue production. You are cordially invited to have dinner with the King. Pull up a chair and join WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore. Enjoy.
Here we are, Dinner with the King, episode number 30. I'm your co-host, Glenn Moore, joined here by the man of the hour, the man that is going to eat some barbecue with me as quick as we can because we are literally hours away from Game 5 of the ALDS, and Jerry and I, as a lot of you know, we are huge Cleveland Indians fans, and we're recording this on a Wednesday evening. So this is going to be, Jerry, the world's quickest podcast. How about that?
That's fine with me. I'm a nervous wreck anyway. I'm telling you, it's just, it seems the Indians always do this to us, don't they? I mean, last year in the World Series, they were up 3-1. We thought for sure they had the series won. It was going to be their first World Series win since 1948, first one in my lifetime and your lifetime as well. And then they didn't make it. And now we come into the ALDS, and they're up 2-0 over the damn Yankees. And I'm just using that phrase because it's a famous phrase with the Yankees. But anyway, 2-0 lead, and then they go to New York and literally give one of the games away, and just now it's all boils down to one game. All boils down to tonight. And I'm nervous. I'm worried. I'm really scared.
Jerry, if they don't win a World Series, I'm going to call this a curse of Jerry Lawler for the Indians.
What?
Why is that? Because you were born in 1949, 1 year after the Indians won their last World Series. So since you've been born, the year after the Indians won their last World Series, they haven't won anything, Jerry. So I'm calling this the curse of Jerry Lawler.
Wait a minute. You can't do that, because that means then that they won't win while I'm alive.
Oh.
So people will be waiting for me to kick the bucket for the Indians to finally win a World Series. So let's don't call it the curse of the King, please. Had nothing to do with
Hashtag curse of Jerry Lawler. How about that? Let's get it trending.
No, let's do not. Hey, look, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan too, but they won the NFL championship in '64. I lived in Cleveland at the time.
I'm just pulling your leg, King, But this is going to be, like I said, Jerry and I, huge Tri fans, so we're going to scarf down some pregame barbecue here at your restaurant here in Cordova, Tennessee. And then we're going to go to your bar and grill on Beale Street to watch the game. I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to be doing that this evening. So
we got some big screens down there. Yeah, come on down, watch it. Well, we can't tell them to come on down because when they hear this, it'll probably be over with. But you'll know that's where we watched it.
Yes.
Hey, and speaking of my club down on Beale Street, on October the 19th, we put together this big special event for Beale Street. It's going to be live at Handy Park, world famous Handy Park, right there on Beale Street. Outdoor event. Live wrestling show featuring some of the Memphis legends of all time. Bill Superstar Dundee's going to be there. Coco Beware's going to be on hand. Grandmaster Sexy Brian Christopher, Dangerous Doug Gilbert, Dustin Starr is going to be there. And yours truly, I'll be there going against Buff the Stuff Bagwell, who's coming into Memphis. And he's always shooting his mouth off about how he doesn't like Memphis. And I had some problems with Buff at the Memphis Grizzlies game last year, and so he's coming back on the 19th. We're going to settle our differences there, and then afterwards, big meet and greet. Everybody's welcome to come down to the club, right? It's like less than a block away on Beale Street there from Handy Park. We're going to have a big meet and greet. All the wrestlers going to be down there to say hi and talk and sign autographs, take pictures with everybody. And you know what, Glenn? You're going to love this.
What? Why?
It's all free.
Free food?
Free. You're getting free food right now. I always have to pick up the check. It's not free food that night. It's a free show, free wrestling event. It doesn't cost you a dime. You come on down, and then the meet and greet afterwards is free too.
Oh, so I get to meet you for free?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh no, I know you'll be so excited.
But anyway, I'm gonna be like, Jerry the King Lawler. Who cares? Where's the free food? Where the food at?
Have you ever have you ever paid for food when you're around me? Have you ever paid for a meal?
I think once or twice on the show.
I don't remember.
No, there are Dinner with the King historians that will back me up. I have paid for a meal. I think once. I want to say once, maybe twice, but I have.
Let's say once, and I don't really remember that.
Well, your memory isn't that good, Jerry. We all know about that.
Hit on the head a lot.
Hit on the head a lot. All right, King. Let's get into the news topics for today. I have a rant. I got a rant, King. And I don't get worked up too much on this show.
Tell them who our special guest is supposed to be today, or is my memory so bad that you've already done that and I don't remember it?
Well, we've promoted on social media, and we were gonna have him on a couple weeks ago, I think last week, but James Ellsworth, WWE superstar James Ellsworth, will be calling in to the hotline to join the King and I. Talk about his career. We'll talk about meeting Vince McMahon for the first time. Why is he called Big Hog? We'll talk about that as well. But James Ellsworth.
Big Hog?
Big Hog. The Big Hog.
Oh.
That's what
you see, you're from Cleveland, and it sounds like you're saying Big Hug.
Oh, no, the Big Hog.
Like you get a big hug, Bailey. But he's called the Big Hog.
No, Big Hog.
Which is like what we cook down on Beale Street when we have the barbecue festival and that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah. So, and then next week.
What you're eating right now.
Yeah, I'm scarfing it down. Next week.
So James Ellsworth is hopefully going to be on the show, and I got to admit, I was hesitant when you told me that you were going to call him and that he was going to call in, because I've said some unflattering things about him. So don't bring that up when he calls, okay?
Oh, I promise I won't, King.
Brother.
Anyway, next week we're going to have Jim Cornette and Austin Idol on the show. A jam-packed show next week. Jam-packed. And we all know Jim Cornette.
I said October the 19th, we got the big show at Handy Park.
Yeah.
Well, October 21st over in one of my all-time favorite wrestling cities, Jonesboro, Arkansas, at the Earl Bell Center over there. We're going to have a huge wrestling show. Austin Idol and Tommy Rich and me, or I don't know the proper grammar, are going to be in the same wrestling ring at the same time for the first time since that infamous wrestling match I had where those two guys said make a wish and pull me between the ring posts there. So I don't know what to expect, but that's going to be October 21st. So we're going to talk to Austin Idol about that next week. Is that the case?
Yeah, and then we're going to have Jim Cornette on the show as well, your old Memphis wrestling buddy. We'll be talking about him. And
Cornette is always in the news. I guess he's had some kind of confrontation with Santino Marella, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't really going to talk about – we're going to say that for next week and get the scoop on what's going on with that. But Jim Cornette, well, he also – I'm not sure if you know this about, I know, King, you usually get your news from me when it comes to wrestling, but apparently Jim Cornette exposed himself to a live studio audience during Bill Pritchard's live podcast show up in Detroit before the pay-per-view. He apparently flashed his Frank's. No, he did. He flashed his Franks and Beans to the crowd.
I don't believe it. I do not believe it. I wouldn't put mooning past him, but I don't believe he just. Does he admit to doing that?
A lot of people from the show tweeted out that it happened. So I don't know if Cornette has.
We'll have to ask him about it, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he did not do that.
Wow.
I don't. Now listen, he does speak. He is bilingual. He speaks two languages.
Yeah.
English and profanity.
Oh.
So we're gonna have to have the censor button all cleaned up and shined up and ready to go on Jim Cornette is on the show.
Yeah, so Jim Cornette and Austin L next week, and then the following.
He drops a F-bomb like every other word.
Well, we'll clean it up. We'll have the censor button ready to go. We'll have the chicken censor button, the old Andy Kaufman censor button, ready to go.
Cuckoo.
Yeah.
Cuckoo.
For Jim
Not
Cornette.
A chicken. It's a cuckoo clock.
Oh, cuckoo clock. Well, chicken clucks, or it was a cluck, right?
No, it's not a chicken clucking.
Something. We'll have the censor button ready for Cornette. That's the bottom line. Well, speaking of Well, I got a rant, King. And speaking of a Jim Cornette rant, dude, I love video games. I play sports video games. I always play WWE 2K. WWE 2K18, all the roster reveals coming out, all these guys, from the present roster to past superstars are,
I just mentioning that, I was on Twitter today and I just saw that they've released this big 2K18 poster.
Yeah.
That literally has a picture of it's a huge thing. It has a picture of everybody that's on the game, right?
Yeah. And I'm very upset because
your rant is what?
I'm mad because you're not in it, Jerry.
That makes you mad?
They have all these.
That makes you mad?
That makes well, that's true. But the thing is, they have all these past superstars in it, guys that, respectfully, they have maybe earned the right to be in the game. But come on, they take you out of the game for commentary, which I can see because you're not in full-time commentary anymore. But then they take you out totally. You have the most championships won in professional wrestling history. You still wrestle now. Have they even contacted you about being in the game at all? Have they even told you that, hey, you're going to be in it later in a later release or anything, Jerry?
No, I've heard nothing.
That's ridiculous.
And believe me, I've a lot of people have tweeted about it, you included. There's been, and I've talked to Bryce. I'm not going to mention his last name because it might cause a Twitter backlash or whatever. But anyway, he's one of the guys from 2K Sports, and I've talked to Steve, and nobody seems to know why I'm not included, other than the fact that maybe, like you said, that I've just always been considered doing the commentary. I can't remember how many years I've done the commentary on that game. Every single year since it's come out. And they just, maybe just because that they always consider me a commentary guy. But yeah, there's names on there that I've been in the business 46 years, and there's names on there that I don't even know who they are. Yeah. Didn't recognize.
Yeah.
And then you're right, I'm not on there.
Yeah, I don't get that. Why. Like I said, it's a video game, whatever. People can probably tweet at me and say, you nerd, you're getting mad over a video game. But, it's some of like I said, some of these names, maybe shouldn't be in the game. And then you have, Jerry the King Lawler. Just throw Jerry in the game. Just throw him in. It doesn't take that much. You've been in the game before, so it's not like they have your model or your body scan or whatever they have. Of you.
Have I been in the game before as a player? I don't even know.
I've won the WWE title with Jerry the King Lawler before in WWE 2K games. I've done it. I've had it.
Really?
So, yeah. So you've been a playable character before. So, yeah, I'm a little bit PO'd about that. Hopefully, we can get Jerry Lawler into the WWE 2K game. Maybe as a downloadable character. That would be terrific.
Okay, now I will say this. And I don't know if I have no idea if this means anything or not. But the last show that I was at, was it the last pay-per-view or was it actually at the Memphis show?
Well, you mentioned at SummerSlam they did a body scan for a game not WWE 2K.
Yeah, that was a different deal. But then at the last Memphis Raw, no, it wasn't that. It was the pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view that I was at.
No Mercy?
The last Raw pay-per-view.
Okay,
they came to me and said, yeah, exactly. That's where it was in L.A. They came to me and said, hey, we need to get some recent headshots of you. And so I said, okay. And then the guy came to me again.
Because a lot of times, right? They fix the camera?
No, because a lot of times I'll say, yeah, okay, and I'll put them off, and then I'll just conveniently won't get back to them. But anyway, so he came to me again, and it was one of those deals where you're in front of the green background, and boom, they just started taking a bunch of different pose shots, and then he said, okay, now we need to get the headshot, and where it's the profile shot. In other words, boom, they start shooting pictures of your face. You look straight ahead, and then you turn to like a 45-degree angle, boom, and then you turn all the way to the side for a profile. Then you turn towards the back, and then a complete back shot. And anyway, you just slowly turn around, and they keep shooting pictures of every angle of your head that they can get. And usually those pictures are used for the video games. So, they did take those pictures of me just at the last Raw pay-per-view. So who knows?
So is that
they didn't say what it was for, but
maybe you asked your buddy Steve with the WWE 2K.
I did ask Steve, and he's involved with. He was always there when we did the commentary on the games and everything. But I don't think either he or at least that's what he and Bryce both say is we're not involved in the decision-making part of who's going to be in the game.
Well,
so
if people
got that deniability.
Yeah, if people want to see Jerry in the game, you guys can tweet at WWE Games. That's the Twitter handle for WWE 2K. So you guys can tweet at us. Let's see Jerry Lawler in the game
at WWE Games. That's it.
At WWE Games is the Twitter, and they follow the show. So I DM'd them and asked them, and they don't know either. So very interesting.
If they don't know, who does know?
Jerry Lawler, who? Who's that?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Jerry, over the weekend, obviously last week's show, I want to say thank you to everybody who has emailed or tweeted at us or commented on the on our show about Lance Russell. Got a lot of great feedback, a lot of great stories were shared on Twitter and social media about Lance Russell. I saw a lot of people around the business, not just us, but Jim Cornette had a great tribute to Lance Russell. A lot of people, who do podcasts had a lot of great, tributes to Lance Russell. Over the weekend, King, obviously Saturday was the day. Everybody came down to Memphis. You had your little get-together at the bar and grill after. But overall, I'm sure it was a sad day, but just want to talk about Saturday for Lance.
You know what? It was oh man, I mean, yeah, it was a sad day, but it was also a day of mixed emotions. I want to thank Shane, Lance's son, and his other son Rusty. They and the entire Russell family made sure that it wasn't something that Lance would not have wanted. It was a remembrance, like a service that was basically they tried their best not to have it sad. They didn't have a preacher or pastor on hand to do a big eulogy that would bring everybody down. They had the entire room filled. There was Lance's urn was there, and they had the entire room filled with Lance Russell memorabilia, pictures, photographs, plaques, awards, all of this sort of stuff that he had done throughout his entire life and especially throughout his wrestling career. And so it was just like 2 hours at the funeral home where people just walked around and looked at all of this stuff. And everybody that was there, of course, was either a friend of the family or a fan of Lance Russell. So everybody was just sharing, Lance stories and what they remembered about Lance. And so it wasn't sad at all. Then at the end, Shane had asked me and Dave Brown to speak just for a few minutes, and I got up first and just basically told everybody how much Lance meant to me, and what and I think I said this last week on the podcast, but Lance to me was like the old movie It's a Wonderful Life. He did have a wonderful life, but I don't know if Lance ever realized how many people and how important his life was to other people around him, and how he touched other people's lives. And in my case, I just reminded everybody that without Lance Russell, I would have never been a wrestler. I would have never been in this business in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So everything that I've done throughout my life, connected with wrestling and the career that I've had, as great as it's been, Lance Russell was that one person that in the very beginning was responsible for that. And then and Dave Brown, who was Lance's partner and the top reigning meteorologist in the city of Memphis for 20 or almost 30 years, I guess, or maybe more than that. But anyway, Dave Brown was, he got up and told everybody how he owed all of his success and his career and the things in his life to the fact that Lance Russell got him started in the business too. And he went on to mention so many other names and people that Lance had a hand in starting when Lance was the boss and the program director at Channel 13 TV station. And so it was nice. It was not one of those tear-jerking kind of things, which I know that's what I said. Lance would not want everybody to be standing around crying and grieving and mourning and everything. He would want to be remembered, of course, but in a fond way. And I think that's what we all did. And then Shane had come to me earlier and said, hey, when we get through with the service at the funeral home, can we all come down to your club and everybody raise a glass and toast Lance's life? And so that's what we did. We all went down to the club at 3:00, spent about 3 hours down there, and everybody just had a great time. Once again, we had 3 TVs going with all, Lance Russell, his most classic moments from Memphis wrestling were playing on all of those screens, and people were just reminiscing and having a great time. And Shane bought at the end. Shane bought shots for everybody in the place, in remembrance of Lance. And it was a great day. Then afterwards, Lauren and I went to dinner that night with Shane and Lance's entire family. So it was a day of mixed emotions. Everybody loved Lance Russell, and nobody more than me. But he did. We all just kept reminding each other that, hey, 91 years. Lance lived 91 great years, and it was a wonderful life for Lance.
A lot of people, the full show is on YouTube, but also I chopped up the intro and the outro of last week's show into their own video files. So if people want to listen to the intro or the outro, they can go on YouTube for Dinner with the King, and they can listen to those parts of the show. As well as the full show as well. So that's on your YouTube show for all the people that listen on iTunes and all the regular podcast apps. So a lot of the clips are on YouTube as well. So, but yeah, I was I've been watching a lot of classic Lance. I was texting with you the other day, and I think the Indians were losing big, or they were losing, and I was like, I'm going to turn on some old Memphis wrestling, and there was Lance. So. Been watching a lot of Lance Russell clips. I'm sure a lot of people listening have done the same. Jerry, I want to know.
Yes.
I want to know about the Shield getting back together. The Shield, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins. They went their own separate ways a few years ago, and now they're back together. And I love a good faction. I love a good faction.
You are a faction lover.
I love a good stable. We had you had your stables throughout the day with certain guys.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Shield? The top 3 guys of Raw getting back together. Is that what's best for business?
Oh, I think without a doubt it's best for business. It wouldn't be done if they didn't think it was best for business. It's one of those situations where when they put those 3 guys together, Roman and Seth and Dean, when they put those 3 guys together, it just it was one of those magical things that just really clicked. I mean, everything they did clicked, and man, what a great run they had when those guys were all together. And then naturally, all good things must come to an end, and so the decision was made to split those guys up and let them all go out on their own. And when you look at it, they all had success as single wrestlers. I don't know. I guess maybe Roman a little more than Seth, but then you look back, Seth with his, with that injury that he suffered, Seth was really on a roll there for a while. And then Dean had a tremendous amount of success as a single guy too. But I don't think any of the 3 of them reached the height that they enjoyed while they were all together as the Shield. And so, I still feel like the company feels like that Roman Reigns is the guy that they're looking for someone that can pick up the ball without having to call back John Cena. So, and I still feel like the company thinks that that's the guy, Roman Reigns. But as far as as far as something for the short term right now, I think it was a great move in putting these guys back together because, if they can catch that lightning in a bottle a second time, and I think that. How long has it been since those? Has it been almost 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years since they broke up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's been long enough that the people are really, the people were really wanting to see that happen again. And now we'll see how they respond to them. And I think what they got them going against the Miz and Braun Strowman. Great. It should be a really good matchup there. I'm looking forward to it. It's not, it's just hard to, especially, I don't know. I guess I'm a little cynical in the fact that, when you've been around the business as long as I have, you've seen so much, you've done so much that it's hard to get somebody like me excited and invested in something again. But I can honestly say I'm excited about seeing what they're going to do with the Shield and these three guys getting back together. I think it is definitely, and you put it the best way, I think it's going to be very good for business.
Up, Jerry, the hotline's lighting up here. This must be our guest calling from Maryland, from Baltimore,
Wait a
Maryland.
minute, hang on, Glenn, because
What?
Now, let everybody know this was your idea. You spoke with James Ellsworth, if this is indeed him calling, and I was a little hesitant about having him come on the podcast because I think I may have said some unflattering things about James in the past. So,
well, I mean,
I don't know.
You have, but also he's a loyal listener to the show, so he does know what you said about him. So I wanted to bring him on.
Answer the phone and make sure it's him.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me hit the hotline here. All right, is this a WWE superstar James Ellsworth on the line?
Hey, what's up, Glenn? Hey, King, how are you? Nice to hear from you.
I'm great, James. Thanks for coming on the. I keep wanting to call it a show. I don't know if it's a show or if we always refer to it as a podcast. I'm still so new at this, I don't really know. But thanks for being here with us, James.
Yeah, I think the cool kids are calling it a podcast these days.
Oh, okay. Well, then we need to call it a show then, because I'm definitely not a cool kid. But anyway, where you at now? You at home right now?
Yeah, well, I just got home, flew in this morning. We did SmackDown last night in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I'm home here in Baltimore.
Aha. Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have the fond memories. I think Grand Rapids is where I got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2007.
Oh, nice.
And speaking of back in the day, before we get started in what you're up to right at the moment, SmackDown and all of that sort of stuff. Back in the day, somebody reminded me that I guess you and I have actually been in the ring and had matches against each other years ago. Is that right? Do you remember that?
Oh, no, I've never wrestled you, but I've been on independent wrestling shows with you in the past. Yeah. Never had the opportunity to wrestle you.
Oh, I see. So what kind of show was that we were on together?
When I first started, I was like 17. I was still like a student. That was, I guess, 2002. We were in Baltimore at a show, and that's when I was first started. So that was a long time ago. And then most recently, I think 2012. I think it was the week after.
That's still like 5 years ago, huh? Wow.
Yeah. So that's the last time I was on a show with you, because I know you still do independents, but a lot of them, I guess, are around your area, maybe, or maybe you still get flown over everywhere. But
well, no, you know what? I was actually was that show? Was it part of that Maryland Championship Wrestling, MCW?
No, it was this company that was only around for a little bit, and real small venue in Pasadena, Maryland.
They probably went out of business after you and I were on the same show together.
Now, Jerry.
What? I did some shows in Maryland. There's, I think MCW is still around, isn't it? They still do independent shows there?
Oh, yeah. They went out of business for a couple of years, but then they started back up, and I hear they're doing real well.
Yeah, I was actually, I may have been the one that put them out of business a couple of years, because I was actually the MCW champion there for a short time. But I think Did you say that's on the show that you and I were on years ago there in Maryland? We were dressing in, was it not a very nice dressing rooms or something?
Yeah, I think you were a little upset. I guess they had you in a broom closet, I think it was, and you talked about it in your promo that night. You were talking about in your promo. You brought it up.
Oh my gosh, that's what. Well, I mean, it really doesn't bring back any certain memories because I've dressed in a lot of broom closets. I was going to say, believe it or not, this is honest to goodness true too. Back in the day when Monday Night Raw first started, and we wrestled in this little small place in New York called Manhattan Center. Literally, guys dressed in the broom closet in that building as well. I mean, we were dressing on the stairwell. We were dressing broom closet, just any kind of place. The place was so small that just anywhere the guys were, could find a place to put their bag down and sit down and get dressed. So yeah, I've dressed in many places like that, as I'm sure you have as well, right, James?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't bother me a bit. Wherever lay my head is home. It's not a big deal. But you were a little upset about it that day, but it'll never bother me.
Now, Jerry, now, Jerry, I have to interrupt here because you mentioned it when we answered the phone. On the previous show, we talked about the women's Money in the Bank match, and you mentioned that James Ellsworth looks like a guy that he should be buying a ticket to go on the show. Now, I want to bring
what? I said that.
Yes, you did. Yes, and James remembers because he listens to every single show. He's a loyal Dinner with the King listener. Now, I talked to James before we did a little show prep together. And King, do you still feel that way? Even though James has been in WWE for a year, he main evented some SmackDowns. He competed for the WWE Championship. King, I mean, this guy's a bona fide stud. He's the big hog.
Exactly right. And let me say this while we have James here with us on the show, and I'll say this to everybody. No, I do not still feel that way. Here's a guy who has, I use this analogy a lot. It's sort of like a football game in the WWE. They hand you the ball, and when you get handed the ball, you either run with it or you fumble. And James has certainly run and scored a touchdown with it. I mean, he has certainly changed my opinion of him. As a matter of fact, he single-handedly, he and another guy, Enzo Amore, make me really miss being on color commentary because James is the kind of guy and the kind of individual and character and personality that I could have a ball with if I were doing color commentary. And I mean, I'll watch his matches and I'll see what they're doing with him, and I just think, God, I could have so much fun with this guy, and I think that, like I said, once again, I think that's one of the things that's missing with the color commentary in the WWE today. It's so hard line, and it's so, oh my gosh, look at that. There's a brain buster that should almost kill the guy or something like that. But with a guy like James, I mean, and I'm sure James knows he's not the best looking guy. I'm sure whenever a group picture's made, they hand you the camera, right, James? I mean, it's one of those things that, you could have a lot of fun with not only his appearance, but his physique and all that sort of stuff. And same thing with, because like I said, he doesn't look like the rest of the crowd. He doesn't look like a typical WWE superstar. And the fact that he has turned that into his advantage and made and been so successful with it is just I tip my crown to you, James. You've done really well. And I apologize for saying that in the past about you.
Oh man, you don't have to apologize to me. I do appreciate the kind words. I mean, like when I listen to you or I see you do a wrestling promo, I take it with a grain of salt. You're one of the greatest heels or villains, of all time. And plus, I'm from Baltimore, and we did steal your beloved Browns and won 2 championships since then. So maybe you hold that against me. I don't know, but no, it's not like I've heard it all my whole life. Like I've had everything said to me my whole life, insults. I've been bullied and all. And I've never cried about it. I've always stuck up. You mean
even wait a minute, James? Even back in school, that time when your mom dropped you off at school and she got a ticket for littering, yeah, that didn't make you cry.
No, not at all. I've always took it, smiled on my face, and and kept going. That's why I love Jerry, because he, again, one of the greatest antagonists of all time, if not the greatest.
And listen, I once again, I got a million one-liners, especially, and when I see you, a lot of them come to mind. But oh my gosh, the fun I could have with what you're doing now. Oh my gosh,
Right.
you and Carmella, and the bringing you out on a leash. Oh, it wouldn't. I mean, it would not do to have me on there now because it wouldn't be politically correct, but it would sure be fun and entertaining. I can assure you.
Well, going back to what you said, JBL had a lot of fun with me while he was on commentary, and man, I'd watch it back and I would just laugh at things he was saying. And every now and then, he would come to me and say, "Hey James, do you have any insults for me to call you? I'm running out." I would help him with his insults.
Well, I mean, that's like I said, that to me is I don't know, to me is what's missing with the commentary now. But and when I see you and Carmella out there, I mean, a million things come to my mind that I would love to be saying, that I would love to be talking about. But how is your relationship for real with Carmella?
Actually, so when I first got there, I didn't know a lot of people. I knew some people that I worked on the independents with, but Carmella, I don't think she did any independents before she got to WWE. So I think it was last year at the European tour in November, she came to me and said, "Hey, I have this idea about putting you with me, when you're done with the Dean Ambrose and AJ stuff, whenever that comes to an end, I have this idea I'd like to pitch to Vince where, they put you with me and you fall in love with me, and I'd use that to my advantage to help me win matches and, get me to the women's title." I said, "Oh, yeah, that'd be a great idea." So I didn't know her much back then, but now, we're good friends. We text all the time. She's a very, very smart girl, and she's easy to talk to, and we get along great.
Wow, that's really cool. So actually, it was Carmella's idea, and she pitched it to the creative and everything, and that's how that all came about?
Yeah, she went to Vince and said, "Hey, I have this idea with Ellsworth," and she pitched it right to Vince, and Vince loved it, and here we are. It's started last December, and we're in October now, so it's going on. It's 10, going on 11 months that her and I have been on TV together.
Yeah, trust me, in the WWE, that's a long run. that's a long, successful program, man. No kidding. Well, what's in the future? Do they come to you guys, and how far in advance? I've told people, when in my case it was always like from 1 week to the next, because we would get there to SmackDown or to Raw and go out to do the commentary on the show, and they would come to us sometimes when the show was starting. We still wouldn't have a finished run sheet to tell us who's going to wrestle who, because they'd say the show's not completely done being written yet. So, I mean, is it still a case where you guys just find out from week to week the new ideas and what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, it's still week to week. We have an idea of what we're doing, going forward sometimes, but it's week to week. And the creative team, they get a lot of slack, but man, do they have a hard job? It's not an easy job. Right?
Without a doubt. That's why the turnover is so great. I mean, I don't see, and there are some guys, Ryan and Ed, and a lot of the guys that have lasted a long time, and it's always, I'm amazed because it is so difficult and such a demanding job that to have longevity there is like a miracle.
Yeah, so when I work with those guys on promos and everything, I just try to have fun with them and have a good time with the guys while they're there. Because I know, I can imagine that has to be very stressful and very hard to come up with all these new ideas for, 5 hours if you count NXT as well, 6 hours of TV a week that they have to come up. And then if you have a pay-per-view, that's 9 hours of TV a week. You have to come up with ideas fresh.
Right, and now it's like 2 pay-per-views a month too. Wow.
So 2 pay-per-views a month. How do we get to them? How quickly can we get to the pay-per-view with these stories? And it's just got to be very stressful. So those guys, they take a lot of slack online or by people, but man, it's just not easy. So.
Well, I mean, you said that Carmella pitched the original idea of you two guys working together. Now, since you've been together, do you guys ever see the writers and say, "Hey, I got an idea," and run new stuff by them as well?
Oh yeah, see me, I love telling stories using the art form or the platform of the WWE or professional wrestling. So if I have an idea, I'll go to them and say, "Hey, what if I say this?" Or what if like right now, like our whole story is I'll do anything for Carmella, and
Right.
like she dumped me in the ring, and we did after that we did the backstage. We're like, look, if you please take me back, I'll do anything for you. And then she kissed me and said anything, and I said yeah. Then she slaps me, so she's really just belittled me, treated me like crap, but I'm okay with it because the story is I'll do anything for her. Like right now, she has me on a leash. She has me doing dog tricks and all that, and
Yeah, man. And you're getting paid. Usually, you have to pay good money to get something like that done.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
I wouldn't either. That's just one of my
Sure,
one-liners.
King.
I'm sorry.
Sure, King. Sure.
Oh my goodness. But anyway, it is a very entertaining. It's a very entertaining story to follow. I mean, that's it goes beyond headlocks and wrist locks and moonsaults and all of that sort of stuff. It's a personal type story that I really enjoy it.
I appreciate it, and hopefully people are looking at it going, man, what's going to happen next? What are they going to do next? What is she going to make him do next? Does it go farther than just dog tricks? Is she going to make him run into a wall? Is she going to make him, I don't know, punch Baron Corbin in the face just because she tells him to? Like, where's it going to go? Is hopefully is what people are wondering, and hopefully continues to be as successful as you're saying it is.
Well, you're right, and that sometimes is. It gets forgotten that the secret to the wrestling business being successful is when the fans can't figure out what's going to happen next. When when they're out there wondering what is going to happen next, and that's when the interest is there. That's when you get big crowds coming. We say in the business, that's when you draw. That means you get big crowds coming to see the shows because they're invested and they want to find out what's going to happen next, and they can't figure it out. And that's what you guys have been successful with, and at least in my opinion so far.
All right, and I appreciate that. And just like I was just talking about the day that they had her, that she dumped me in the ring, and then we did the backstage like an hour later. And she kissed me like no one saw it coming. Like she just kissed me in the backstage out of nowhere. We've never kissed before, and they reacted real good. And I just with our story, I don't think people can guess where it's going next. Like it's very unique, and we're having fun. And like I said, we get along, and we look forward to seeing what we're doing from week to week. So it's been a blast.
I don't know about you. I don't know how that shoot went, but if I were in your situation, I would have had to rehearse that scene several times. I would have said, "No, that's not good. Let's do another take. I didn't like that. Let's do another take."
Well, unfortunately, it was live, so we had to.
Oh, darn it! Yeah, Carmella's a lovely young lady. So the two of you are it's like an odd pairing. I don't know why.
Right? Yeah, it's. And she's so smart. Like when people ask me about Carmella, the first word that comes to mind is smart. She's a very, very intelligent woman.
Well, and she came up with and worked for a while, I guess, NXT with Enzo, right?
Enzo and Kaz, yeah, she was with them. She was their valet in NXT.
Well, I mean, here's another guy, and I keep hearing stuff. I'm not there all the time, just usually at pay-per-views now, but I keep hearing stuff about Enzo having legitimate heat behind the scenes with some different guys. But Enzo is, I mean, he's such a natural heel. And, I just know that right after he won the championship there when we had him on the Raw Talk, it was like he was getting legit heat with me during the interview. So, I can understand I can understand how, it happens in the back, but the guy, he's the other one that I said, he makes me miss being there to do color commentary for a guy like him because he's just such a character, and he's very good at what he's doing right now too.
Oh yeah, he just has presence. If he's in a room, you're going to pay attention to that guy. He just has such a presence. And yeah, like I don't know what the story is about the Heat. Of course, we hear stories and all that, but like when I see him, he's nice to me. I've had no problem with him. When I did the Braun Strowman match that put me on the mat there, he's one of the guys. Like, and I didn't know him. He called me afterwards and said, "Hey, kid, you did a great job." And so I've personally never had a problem with Enzo. And I've seen or heard stuff that he may have said he got heat with people, but when it comes to him and I interacting, he's always been real cool to me.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, he's doing well, and it looks like that he's got a bright future there. As I think you do, James. I once again I want to reiterate that I was having to. You've made me eat my words. So and that's a good thing, really is.
I want to
No
know,
problem.
James, when you talk about Carmella pitching, some things to Vince, and there's a lot of stories about people being scared to approach Vince about stories and whatnot. But I usually ask this to people who are fairly new in WWE and whatnot. But do you have a interesting meeting Vince McMahon for the first time story?
Well, the first time I ever had a conversation with him was after the Braun Strowman match. And I was just an extra talent. They just needed someone to, put Braun over. And I was, that day Arn Anderson picked me to do it. He was the producer, and they gave me the 20-second promo, and then I did the match, and then when I get to the back, first person I see is Arn. He said, "Hey kid, you did a great job." He said, "Believe it or not, Vince wants to see you." And I said, "Vince wants to see me?" What? So
that's usually a bad thing.
Right, I'm an independent wrestler at the time who's just an extra talent, and so I go to the Gorilla, and I'm walking up the steps to go see Vince and Gorilla, and he walked out of the Gorilla to find me, and he's like, "Hey kid, you did a hell of a job, great job out there. You killed it." He was, and Triple H, but I was just so blown away. It's such a blur in my head how it went. It was literally a 10-second conversation of him saying great job, and it just caught me off guard so much. It's such a now I look back at it, and I could just remember him coming out of the curtain and Gorilla there, and about to walk down the steps, and I met him right there at the steps, and he just said good job, and Triple H shook my hand. It was still to this day probably one of the coolest moments I've ever had in the wrestling business, for sure.
Well, and you know what, and rightfully so. You should be proud of that, because I know JR and I used to talk about it. We would do a broadcast of a Monday Night Raw or something like that, or a pay-per-view especially, and you just know you had done a really good job and had a really good show or whatever, and then you walk after the show is over, and you walk back to the Gorilla position, and you just walk right past, and Vince is just sitting over there, still on the headphones or anything, and he never says, almost ever never say anything to you. And so JR used to always say, he doesn't realize just how much just a pat on the back every now and then would mean, or just how much a pat on the back say, "Hey, good job," would mean. But I swear to God, I think it comes from the fact that Vince is, he's such a workaholic. I mean, that business, the WWE, is his life. And Vince is also a perfectionist. I mean, he feels like everything that he does has to be done perfectly, and he expects that. And workaholic people expect that same type of thought process and behavior from everybody else. They don't realize that everybody else doesn't think that exact same way. So, I mean, when guys go out there, I think it's just that Vince expects them to do a great job. And so it's almost like he's not surprised when guys do a great job, and he so he doesn't really think about going over and making that extra effort to thank somebody or to congratulate them or to give them that pat on the back, and I don't think he means anything by it when he doesn't do it. It's just almost, I think he just thinks, "Hey, you did a good job, but that's what you're supposed to do. You're a professional, So for him to get up and say that to you and everything, that is special, and you should cherish that moment. Believe me."
Oh, and I do, and Jericho, when I went on his podcast, he said the same thing. He said you don't know how often that doesn't happen, him getting up and doing that. So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. And I have so much respect for Vince McMahon. I mean, look what he's turning the WWE into. It's, this global phenomenon, as they say. And how can you not respect the guy? And he is a workaholic. And every time I'm out there, it doesn't matter what they give me to do. I know with my character, they can do so many off-the-wall things with it. And I'm very blessed to be that character that they can do those things with. And hopefully it keeps me around a while, because there's certain things they can do with me that they can't do with, like, you know, a regular talent on the roster. Like, who else could they put in a leash? You know, like.
Wait a minute. I can think of somebody. Me.
Oh yeah, you would mind Carmella.
I would volunteer. I would volunteer for that job with Carmella. Believe me.
Right, but I mean, whatever they give me to do, I'm gonna.
It's a good. Hey, Glenn, it's a good thing Lauren doesn't listen to this podcast, isn't it?
Oh yeah, your girlfriend. Which I don't know if you remember. I met her after we had SmackDown in Memphis. I came to your restaurant. You took me down the basement, showed me all the cool stuff you had on the wall there and all. You
were one of the few guys that, and I appreciate that. You were one of the few guys that came over and came over and met with the fans and everything after. What was that after SmackDown, right?
SmackDown, yeah, a couple of months ago this year, yeah.
Well, speaking of nicknames, James, on Talking Smack, which I thought was great to have for you guys to go on after, you know, to kind of be yourselves and you know, non-scripted and just, you know, just basically, you know, talk to each other and shoot some great promos. But Daniel Bryan gave you a nickname called the Big Hog, and
what's up with that?
Yeah, what's up with that? I'm scared to ask, but inquiring minds want to know.
Well, you know, I work for a PG company, so there's only so much I can say about this. Daniel Bryan, who is a very funny guy in person, as he is on TV, he's just such a cool, funny guy. He So I've been on Talking Smack a lot, and you're right. I miss Talking Smack. We still have it after the SmackDown pay-per-views, but when we had it every week, you know, you had a lot of opportunities to go on there because, you know, you can only have the same guys on there so many times, and it was a weekly show. So I was on there a lot, and I don't know, one time I was on there, and he just, I think it was when Carmella and I first got together on TV, and Renee asked Daniel, why do you think Carmella hangs out with him? Like, what do you think is the deal with this? It's so weird. And he's like, and Daniel Bryan says to Renee, what are you talking about, Renee? Haven't you heard? James Ellsworth, he's the big hog. And she just lost it right on the set, and, you know, referring to, you know, certain male parts, I guess we can, you know, say on the air here. But yeah, I guess that's what he's referring to. I'll play dumb and act like I don't know. But yeah, he's.
Wait a minute, are you serious? That's what that meant?
I think that's what he was referring to.
Wow, now I know what he meant when he called me Miss Piggy. I don't get what the heck.
But yeah, it's like again, it's just Daniel having fun, and I don't know. It just went from there. He kept saying it every week on Talking Smack, and then people on Twitter and all that started tweeting it to me, and I just, you know,
the big hog. I wish I'd have known. That should have been the first question we asked you. We could have talked to the entire hour about that.
You mean we could talk at length about
that? At length, I like it.
But yeah, I don't know where he got that information, but I don't think I should comment on it further. But yeah,
no, especially don't deny it. So anyway.
Anyway, but before we wrap it up, James, you are in Baltimore, and you mentioned this before, stealing our beloved Browns and turning them to the Ravens, and then winning a Super Bowl on top of it.
Two of them.
Oh, yeah, two Super Bowls. Yeah.
Well, sorry about that. But did you know that Jerry the King Lawler wore a Ravens jersey once before? And
yes, SummerSlam against Jake Roberts, right?
Yeah.
Cleveland. Yeah.
One of the biggest regrets of my career. I don't know, and honestly, I think at the moment, I think if I remember correctly, that was my idea. Because I was, you know, at that point, my job was more important than my loyalty to the Browns. But so I just knew that the Browns were gone, and I just knew that would get a tremendous amount of heat with the fans there in Cleveland, and that's what I was trying to do. So yes, I went to Vince and said, "What if I wear a Ravens jersey out there tonight?"
Oh, I love it.
Yes, he did. That's exactly what he said.
Oh man, yeah, that's just easy stuff to do to, like, you make 10,000 people mad all at the same time. That's
what we call cheap heat. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Easy to do. Well, but I will say, you know, that's I mean, now that since the Browns have come back, Glenn and I both diehard, you know, loyal Browns fans, and it's been much to our chagrin the way, you know, the The performances that we get from the Browns every single week, it just can't, every week we say it can't get any worse, and somehow it seems to get worse. But we're still pulling for them.
You guys are definitely dying hard with the Browns, but at least you have the Indians who are playing in Game 5 tonight of the ALDS. You have them, and you have the Cavs who won some championships. I mean, they're not doing bad in Cleveland. Yeah, the Browns are, probably the worst football team of all time. But you got the Indians and the Cavs, to have fun with up there in Cleveland. And Game 5 is tonight, King. Hopefully the Indians, who were up 2-0 in the series, and the Yankees bounce back and tied at 2-2. Hopefully the Indians can finish them off tonight in Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm worried. I'm sitting here I'm like sweating right now that you started talking about that. I'm so nervous about this. I don't know what happened. I don't know what will happen if they don't pull this thing out.
I'm sweating, but I got the meat sweats.
We won't talk about that. We've talked enough about meat on this podcast. Hey, listen, James, we'll let you go, man, and we really appreciate you coming on to the show. And I just before you go, while we were here, Glenn knows I'm kind of getting into poetry a little bit. I'm trying to write little poems and things like that while I'm, in my spare time and while I'm killing time here, just waiting for the Indians game. I wrote a little quick poem about you, James, and I hope you like it.
Oh, wow. Can't wait to hear it.
Okay, here it goes. Roses are red, violets are blue. James, don't feel bad. Frankenstein was ugly too. How's that? Is that okay?
It's beautiful. I will have to write you one and maybe tweet it to you at some point.
All right. James, listen, no kidding. I mean, I really thank you for being on the show. We really enjoyed having you, and we found out some new and interesting facts about our buddy James Ellsworth.
I don't know if they're all facts, but but yeah. Like I said, like Glenn was saying, I listen to you guys' podcast every week when I'm on the road, on the road 4 or 5 days a week, and I'll in the car rides I'll put you guys on and check you guys out. I've always been a big fan of Jerry the King Lawler. The guy that trained me, Axel Rod, used to wrestle for you in USWA a little bit, and he used to always speak very highly of you. And all those the old USWA, AWA stuff, I've always been a fan of watching, and I appreciate being on the podcast, and I had a lot of fun.
And you should have mentioned that earlier, because we could do an entire podcast just about, I'm sure, your experiences with Axel Rotten, yours and mine both.
Oh yeah, it's such a shame because he was so smart about the business, and he was such a good worker that nobody even knows about. He did all that hardcore stuff. That's what people remember him for.
Yeah.
But he was such a good wrestler, and he wrestled for you, and people don't know that. And of course, he had his demons, and ultimately led to him not being with us anymore. Very sad. It's a shame he never got to see me live my dream here in the WWE. But it's life, and sometimes those things happen. But yeah, he always spoke very highly of you, and I just wanted to point that out.
Well, James, I appreciate it. And listen, hopefully you'll come back on and we'll be talking about some of the things you're doing, getting ready for WrestleMania and all of that sort of stuff. Okay.
I hope so, man. I hope that 2-minute thing I did with Braun Strowman, that was supposed to be a 2-minute thing. I hope it lasts forever.
I got you. Thanks again. Thanks, James. Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Hey, this is Chris Jericho inviting you to the first ever rock and wrestling rager at sea. Picture this: rock and roll, wrestling, comedy, live podcasting, all on the open ocean from October 27th to the 31st, 2018, from Miami to Nassau. I'm bringing Hall of Fame wrestlers, some of the greatest rock and roll bands on the planet, and putting the first wrestling ring on a cruise ship ever. Don't be a stupid idiot. Make the list. Check us out at ChrisJerichoCruise.com.
All right, as you heard, Jericho, the cruise of Jericho is happening, and Jerry, you are going to be on the cruise as the guest cruise director and doing some hosting duties with JR. You're going to be traveling the high sea with Chris Jericho.
Traveling the high seas. I am really excited about this, and the fact that, and nobody's more excited about it than Lauren, my fiance, because we've never been on a cruise. I've never been on a cruise in my life. So, and there are many things that I haven't done, but a cruise is one of them. So we're really excited about this. It's going to be in October 27th through the 31st of 2018. So the thing's a year away, but so I don't want to get overly excited about it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. As you said, good old JR and I are going to host this thing. Ton of big name wrestlers going to be on there. Diamond Dallas Page, Mick Foley, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Rey Mysterio, Raven. I mean, just the list goes on and on of wrestlers that are going to be on there. Then there's going to be an actual live wrestling tournament that's going to take place on this cruise featuring a bunch of Ring of Honor wrestlers, all kinds of music. Chris Jericho's band Fozzy is going to be playing. Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. That's a great, that's the name of his band. But anyway, a lot of great bands are going to be on there. There's going to be some comedy routines. It should be a lot of fun and an entertaining cruise. And if you want more information about it, you can go to ChrisJerichoCruise.com. That's easy to remember, ChrisJerichoCruise.com. And I'm really looking forward to it. Should be fun.
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the coming year, King, hopefully.
You think?
We'll be talking about that. But, King,
that's part of the only way. That's the part of the only reason they're taking me on the cruise. They said they send you a contract and it says you have to mention it with every other breath. So for the next year, I got to talk about the cruise constantly.
Well, King, I'm looking at the TV behind you. They're starting the pregame show for Indians Yankees. We got to get out of here. We'll be back next week with Jim Cornette and Austin Idol on the Jam Pack Show next week. King, I want to watch this game, so we gotta sign off here. We'll talk to you and everybody next week.
Go Tribe. Go Tribe. Please go Tribe.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.